infatuation with a new thing where I thought everybody would find joy and meaning here at UUFNN. If only they would give it a try. And yes, I did go through a phase where I was a new convert, enthusiastically selling my religion to everyone who would listen. Even today, almost 14 years into my journey here, I still wonder why more people aren't beating down our doors to join UUFNN. We've had growth in our membership, but when I read about what people, particularly the millennials and the generations following them, I feel like we have what they want. The majority of that demographic says they want lives of meaning and purpose, but they don't want to be stereotyped or hemmed in. They want to make their own decisions, and they support inclusion and diversity. When I look around here, it seems to me that that's what we have in abundance. Recently, the Public Religion Research Institute published their annual report. Currently, they find that only 16% of Americans feel religion is the most important thing in their lives, down from 26% in 2006. The number of religiously unaffiliated has grown from 16% to 26.8%, and 24% of Americans have changed to a different religious tradition, with over half of those people saying that they no longer believe in what their previous tradition taught. 57% of those surveyed say they seldom or never attend religious services. In today's reflection, I hope to provide some introspection on why finding and sustaining a faith community seems complicated, and what we, as a fellowship, and what we individually can do to maintain that community. I'd like to invite Lois up to light our chalice. For those of you gathered on Zoom, please light your personal chalices. Oh, it went out. Fortunately, we have an expert at the chalice. We are all flames when we gather, our fellowship, our community, our home. We inspire, we celebrate, we come together, sharing our light of hope for our combined future.
Please stand as you're willing and able, and we'll sing Morning Has Broken.
Well, this is the time of our service when we offer our bounties with each other to continue the positive and far-reaching outreach to our fellowship and the greater community. Now, baskets will be passed through if you're sitting here, those on Zoom, and of course, if you're like here as well, you can text 73256, putting UUFNN in the message box and hit send. You can also mail a check here at the office, 780 Del Monte Lane, Reno 89511, or better yet, you can sign up for automatic giving. So there's a couple ways to do that. Contact Carol at the office and she'll explain the process. It's a simple and convenient way to give. Well, one of the many things I love about our fellowship is that each month we choose a nonprofit to share our plate with. And here's how it works. I already mentioned you can donate by texting, and there are instructions to do an additional contribution to our share partner. If you write a check, we assume you want that to go to the operating fund unless you make a donation, or notation, that you want those monies to be shared with our share partner. So our recipient for the month of August is the Northern Nevada Literacy Council. And they were founded in 1978. Their mission is to help low-income, low-literacy adult learners achieve their literacy and educational goals while reinforcing beneficial family literacy behaviors in the home, leading to increased education, literacy, and workforce development. They offer classes to both young people and adults. They have supportive reading development through family reading programs. And so to date, hundreds of students have successfully obtained their high school equivalency certificate, leading to enrollment in post-secondary education, vocational training, and employment. They also offer scholarships to students through community college and vocational programs. So the literacy program results in educated adults and families who contribute to a more stable and economically healthy workforce in Northern Nevada. So your generosity will help ensure that that good work continues. So will the ushers please come forward? Thank you, Bill. And will you join David and me as we bless our offerings to the work of this fellowship, which is helping more people grow in love, faith, justice, and joy, we dedicate ourselves and these our offerings.
We
Thank you, Dave. We have props today. Didn't know my markers were scented. Green apple. Obviously, the first thing you need in a faith community is faith, a strong belief in something. My personal path to UUFNN was, to say the least, long and winding. I grew up with no real faith tradition. My parents were Easter and Christmas Catholics, but they stopped attending when I was fairly young. My only real memories of those services was my brother pinching me and my mom warning us to knock it off, or would really be sorry when we got home. By my late teens and early 20s, I started digging into the big questions. What is life? Why are we here? What is the good? Is there true justice? Why is there evil in the world? Not really the typical stuff most young men worry about. It should come as no surprise that I eventually settled on philosophy as my undergrad degree. My only real exposure to religious scholarship was my best friend's father, Ahmed Essa. Dr. Esser was a professor of English at UNR, a devout Muslim, and an extensive scholar of world religions. He'd take great delight when Jehovah's Witnesses or Mormon missionaries would knock on his door, inviting them in for refreshments and conversation. Little did they know that the trap that they had just walked into. He outquoted them on their Bible verses and then began interspersing readings from the Koran and the Torah. His victims could never leave his house fast enough, and he always cheerfully walked them to the door and invited them to come back whenever they wanted to chat some more. They never did. Talking with Dr. Essa was pretty much the only serious conversations I had with another person regarding religion and faith before I found UUFNN. Unlike Dr. Essa, and probably like most people, I disliked the door knockers and the sidewalk fire and brimstone preachers that were a common occurrence on the university campus when I was attending college. I developed a deep distrust of Christianity, which essentially meant I had a deep distrust of the majority of churches in town, and thus no desire to attend. I mostly studied religion on my own. First Taoism, later Buddhism, and my only formal education were a few meditation classes and a handful of Buddhist retreats. Eventually, I dipped into bits and drabbles of the Bible and other religious texts, and while I've come to admire the ministry of Christ and his message of peace, love, and acceptance, I don't really consider myself a Christian. It wasn't until I was in my mid-40s that I seriously considered joining a faith community. I was having health problems, and the United States was in the midst of the Great Recession. I was tired of being depressed and decided that what might help me was finding someplace where I could go for a positive message. Really, anybody who wasn't pounding the drum of negativity. That feels even more common in today's media. I found Unitarian Universalism and this fellowship, and I've been coming here ever since. I've come to realize that all of us have convoluted and twisted faith journeys, and I don't believe that this is unique to just Unitarian Universalism. As I've become more comfortable with being a religious person and talking about religion with other people, I found that even those who have been with a single faith tradition for most of their lives still talk about how their views and opinions have evolved and changed, pretty much like everything does as we grow older and develop deeper experience with the world. The research by the Public Religion Research Institute, which I quoted in my opening remarks, supports this. Simply put, just finding and understanding your own faith is a difficult undertaking all on its own. Lavender. My biggest fear of whiteboard work is misspelling words. The next obvious component when I talk about being in a faith community is community, a group of people who come together to share a common faith. Before I found Unitarian Universalism, I had no idea that this place existed and that the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Northern Nevada was here in Reno. So stacked on top of the problem of finding out what you believe in is finding an organization of like-minded people out there somewhere. In fact, if I'd been looking around in 1957, I would have been completely out of luck because UUFNN hadn't been founded yet. Technically, there was no UU either since the Unitarians and the Universalists hadn't merged, but we can skip that part. Being in community is much more than just sharing common beliefs. After I'd been a member here for maybe a year or so, I had a serious health scare and spent a few days in the hospital. When I next came to service, several people told me they were glad to see me back and asked how I was doing. I realized for the first time that this place, you people, cared and worried about me. It seems silly to talk about it now, but it was literally the first moment when I realized I was part of something larger than myself, that, for lack of a better word, my family circle had grown substantially larger. Unfortunately, being community generally means being physically close. If you live in Fallon, Fernley, Carson City, Gardnerville, Minden, Lake Tahoe, Truckee, Susanville, connecting to your local UUs here in Reno is difficult. In fact, prior to the pandemic, you pretty much had to drive here, be in this building to experience our full faith community. The silver lining to the pandemic is that we were forced to up our online and streaming game, and now many folks join us virtually. Say hi to all the Zoomers. Significantly closing the distance gap in forming our community. For those keeping track, Blueberry. The third and least obvious leg in forming and sustaining a faith community is leadership. It's a basic fact that without someone organizing, we just don't form strong groups. It doesn't matter if I'm talking about a fantasy football league, a softball team, a theater troupe, a business, or social engagement groups like Tu Casa Latina or Faith in Action Nevada. There must be somebody, or most likely a lot of somebodies, that organizes and drives the group. Here, the most obvious leadership position is our minister, but leadership extends far beyond just that single job title. Bill organizes our music. Carol does the day-to-day stuff, yep. We have a bookkeeping service that pays our bills, and then there are our volunteer leaders. Obviously, the Board of Trustees being kind of at the top. The Finance and Legacy Committees, which manage our money and endowment funds. The Committee on Shared Ministry, which monitors the health of the fellowship. And the aptly named Leadership Committee that recruits and supports our official leaders. But even then, we have unofficial leaders, far beyond that. People who work on membership. There's worship tech support. Tracy there in the back with us today. Hi, Tracy. There are the greeters, letter writers, people who do our buildings and grounds. The list just keeps going. Popcorn style. As I would say at my acceptance speech at the Oscars, and there are many more that I will thank personally after today. Without people leading and organizing, there is no community, or at least not one that accomplishes much. Here, classic Venn diagram. Here in classic Venn diagram fashion sits UUFNN and what I like to call the puffy triangle. Each of you also has your own puffy triangle. The puffy triangle can grow if we smoosh the circles together or shrink if we pull them apart. For example, the United Methodist Church has recently lost over 1/5 of its member churches over a schism regarding LGBTQ rights, same-sex marriage, and the role of women in ministry. By the way, that comes to almost 4,000 churches. If you are or were a Methodist at a church and you found yourself with a view that opposes your belief, your faith circle would be pulled entirely out of the puffy triangle, with the result being that you are no longer in that faith community. The faith foundation of Unitarian Universalism is Article 2 of the bylaws of the Unitarian Universalist Association, which outlines our fundamental beliefs and aspirations. Since we are a living tradition, the bylaws stipulate that Article 2 be reviewed at least every 15 years, and UUA is currently in the process right now of reviewing that article. It is possible that you or I might disagree with the proposed changes, and so our puffy triangles might shrink or vanish. Personally, I'm an optimist, so I suspect the reverse will happen, that I'll like the changes and my triangle will grow. Ignoring the big picture stuff happening at the UUA, you can also expand your faith and your puffy triangle on your own. You can start a meditation practice, read any number of the books in our library, talk theology or religion with your fellow congregants, our minister, our Director of Faith Exploration and Transformative Learning. As I mentioned earlier, faith is a lifelong journey, and the more you nourish your faith, think about the big things, the more answers you will find. In a similar vein, changing the community circle can grow or shrink your triangle. It is possible that an unpleasant person or an unpleasant encounter might push you away. Or you might be new here, and you might not be sure who to talk to or who to engage with. But the good news is that it's fairly easy to improve our community and your relationship to it. For example, just by coming to services or joining more often on Zoom or attending Sunday forums, you can strengthen your connections here. And there are a myriad assortment of other options where you can continue to strengthen your connection. Just sitting here, you can introduce yourself to someone you don't know, greet someone new, chat up somebody after the service or in the Zoom coffee hour. Heck, you can attend a circle dinner and not only meet and make new friends, you get free food. Ditto joining Women Who Nosh, Boys Night Out, the monthly Hunto Potluck, or coming to what we're starting as a monthly game night. All of these opportunities surround us, and most of these events aren't really work at all. But the more you join and the more you enjoy, the bigger your community circle grows and the larger your puffy triangle becomes. Many people are reluctant to move into leadership roles, or they don't see themselves as leaders. As the old adage goes, nobody joins a church to be on a committee. But I have personally found that taking on leadership tasks has been the most significant element in growing my connection here. I have been on the board of trustees, serving now for the second time. I've been on most of the major committees, did a stint doing worship tech support. I currently chair the technology committee, and obviously, I've started being a worship associate and a worship leader. Now, I'm not trying to brag about all I do here, but I want to emphasize the point that I find doing this work deeply satisfying, and it is a key component in my engagement with UUFNN. Not to be too evangelical about projecting my experiences onto others, but I suspect if you haven't volunteered to do something here, You might be surprised how much you enjoy it. And again, it doesn't take much to get started. You can make a meal for the Reno Posse. Join a Saturday cleanup day and work on the grounds. Serve as a greeter. Most people don't think of doing this kind of stuff as leading, but it is. Leadership comes in all shapes and sizes, just like in a company that might have a CEO, then a director, then a manager, then a supervisor, then a lead worker, and so on. Doing work as a volunteer is leading. Books like Bowling Alone have outlined the growing isolation people feel, how they become disconnected from family, friends, and social structures, such as PTAs, churches, or bowling leagues. What I'm ultimately getting at is that each of us has the power to grow our puffy triangles, and if our individual triangles grow in this community, so grows the UUFNN puffy triangle. We have a successful community here right now, and you are all a part of it. It takes work and effort to sustain it, but I personally know that effort is worth it. I love being a Unitarian Universalist. I love being a part of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Northern Nevada. Outside of my family, this place, this community, is the most significant source of enrichment in my life. So thank you all for being here, and thank you for listening. And now is our time for prayer and meditation. Pause and relax. Breathe in, breathe out. Feel yourself centering in your chair. Feel your connectedness to this community and the greater world around and below you. I have a couple of sorrows to announce. Mary Ortez is currently in Renown Hospital. Please send her your loving, kind thoughts and prayers. From Bill and Cindy Fogel, Kathy Anderson, their cousin Kathy Anderson, has just been diagnosed with cancer. So again, please send your loving thoughts and caring prayers on her behalf. On the joy side, on August 9th, Xiomara Rodriguez welcomed her new granddaughter. Kaya arrived at 2:30 a.m. and the baby and mother are healthy and doing well. May You Never Thirst by Erica Barron. May you never thirst deeply. May your body and your spirit always have what they need. When you are in need of refreshment or new life, may the waters be available to you. May you never know thirst unto death in your body or in your soul. But may your body and your spirit always thirst enough. May you know the dissatisfaction with things that they are, as they are, that leads to works for justice. May you know the thirst for new knowledge that leads to the quest for truth. May you know the desire for deeper connection that creates new and stronger relationships. May you know the spiritual thirst that keeps the soul searching and gives the sweetness of new discovery to the followers of spiritual paths of all kinds. And now we'll enjoy silence together. And now, with our gesture of openness and connection, one hand on your heart, one hand open to the world. May you never thirst too deeply, but may your thirst never be entirely quenched. Blessings and amen.
Could you please rise as you're willing and able to sing When Our Heart is in a Holy Place?
When our heart is in a holy place.
couple of announcements. For those of you who are not yet receiving the newsletter, I really encourage you to sign up for all the great activities. You see all the great activities that are happening here. We're a very busy place, so it's good to get the newsletter to see what's happening. Marcy said there's found a set of keys, or one key with fob, if it's anybody's car key. If not, she says she's going to go around and test cars to see if she can get a new car. Well, I think the posse is going to take a break. The posse has been feeding our homeless and unhoused people, and but we still need juice and snacks, which you can put in the bin that's in between the two buildings. So make sure you continue to fill that up. Well, we're going to have a very special introduction here in a second. Before I bring Jackie up to do that, I just wanted you to know that there's a process when we choose a interim minister, and part of the process is we have a search committee. So I just wanted to recognize those folks who served on that search committee. I know a couple of them are here. Adrian Fisher, who was then president of the board, was on that committee. Andrea Caldwell, who's also our financial person. Alicia Myers, I don't think either one of those are here today. John Franks is here, though, who provided us with a lot of wisdom from previous search committees in other churches, and Barry Hansen and myself. It was an interesting process. It was a little bit like a dating game. We interviewed several people, and they interviewed us. And in the end, we ranked the ministers on our choices. And if we both came up number one, we had a match. And that's exactly what happened. So I'm going to invite Jackie up to make a proper introduction. Jackie?
Thank you, and thanks to the committee, too. I just have to say before I do that, I am so jazzed to see so many people that I haven't seen here in so long. And I'm going to say a couple, Pat, Jana, Nancy Ann, there's just so many people here that we haven't seen, and it's awesome. And I'm thinking it's because of you. I don't know. So it's my great pleasure to introduce our interim minister, Reverend Shelley Thompson. We are so very fortunate to have her, an experienced interim minister, here in our community to lead us to into the next 2 years as we decide how we want to move forward as a Unitarian Universalist community. She will guide us as we determine what kind of settled minister we want, as we continue to grow in love, faith, justice, and joy, as we work to bend the arc of justice. Reverend Shelley will work with a transition team as we do this work together. She comes to us most recently having just completed an interim ministry in Calgary, Canada. No, she's not Canadian. I've been assured of that. Not that that would have mattered. We've had a Canadian minister. What's that? Yeah. And thank you, hallelujah, Nancy Ann was the chair of the president of the board at that time. Reverend Shelley's family lives in San Diego, and she and her dog Onyx, who I'm sure you'll get a chance, or I hope you'll get a chance to meet, have found a lovely home in Old Southwest Reno. She'll be looking for some gardening advice on planting tomatoes this next year because her backyard has garden beds in it. And she doesn't have any expertise in that, I don't think, yes. I hope you'll all join us in welcoming her, and then after service, we'll be having cake out in the gathering space. Did you want to come up? Welcome. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. I am Reverend Shelley Thompson, and my pronouns are she and her. And I am so excited to be here with all of you. This is just a wonderful conclusion to that search process, which can be a little nerve-wracking for churches and ministers. And I just couldn't be happier to be joining you here in Reno, and I am already so wildly impressed with everything you've got going on. And I want to thank you, Chris, for that wonderful, wonderful presentation and sermon this morning. For those of you who are interested in the really big words that we sometimes use in church, that's called ecclesiology. Ecclesiology, yeah. What is your theory of church? That's a good question. And you know, it's right on schedule because that's what we do during this interim time together. We ask ourselves, what is this theory of church? What is it that you believe you're doing here? Why are you doing it? How does it work? How do you get involved? What's it all about? So that's a wonderful introduction to that kind of brainstorming and thinking on those systemic and institutional levels that really are actually, it's all about our hearts and our community and our ways of building beloved community together. And I can see you already know how to do that well. I am delighted to be here with all of you. I look forward to learning all about this wonderful place and all of you. And I'm excited for us to get a chance to start to get to know each other today. And there'll be plenty more chances to do that. And I am available one-on-one or by phone or by Zoom or in person as we go through this period so that we can get a chance to talk, and you can tell me what you love about this place and what your vision is for how it could even be better. Thank you so much.
And as is our tradition, we are going to sing Home Means Nevada, which is the Nevada anthem. If you wouldn't mind standing and bellowing as you are willing and able.
If you fall
Thank you all for coming today. We have cake and other stuff, and I think we should just get to meeting our new reverend. Thank you all.